Welcome everyone to the Planning Commission's April meeting. Just as a reminder of courtesy for commissioners and audience members, to please silence your phones. The time is 5:32, and we have in attendance Commissioner Larry Craig and Commissioner Lee Ballard. And so we do have a quorum, so we're moving ahead. Awesome. Okay. To begin with, let us say the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And our next item is a declaration of conflicts of interest on any item on tonight's agenda, as well as any ex parte contacts on any item on the agenda tonight. We? None. I have none.
No.
Okay. And then we have our review and approval of minutes. I have reviewed them. Ms. Valen, have you reviewed them?
I have reviewed them and my only change, no. My only.
Make sure you speak into your mouth.
I forgot about, I did that, okay, yeah, no, I'm good.
Larry, did you have a chance to review them?
You know, right now. The only thing I can really confirm is this. Okay. Motion to approve the March 11th and March 19th, 2025 planning and zoning commission meetings minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. What about March 19th? Did we do both of
I
them?
did up there.
All right. And now is the time for members of the public to have an open forum on any topic not on our agenda. And the time limit for this is 3 minutes. Anyone? And then we have a special presentation by Ms. Blackmore. And I think I told you 5.
Yeah, I'll make it simple.
Okay.
No, sir.
All right. All right. And, you want to come up and start microphone on?
Yeah, that's.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for coming here this evening. And I also want to thank you for your interest in providing attainable housing here in Virgin. We're open to hearing about your concept. Note that any discussion will occur at our work meeting next week. And I just want you to keep in mind that currently we're working to maintain an average density of 1 ERU per acre. And unless that property can hook up to a sewer system, that's the standard. And without that, it's unlikely that this use could be supported. And the other thing, we are tying up our new general plan. And just a heads up, there's very little interest in anything above a duplex.
Okay.
Okay, just wanted to be upfront.
Yeah, I respect that and I appreciate your bringing forth all of the concerns. I'd like everybody to be part of it. And, you know, from a developer standpoint, you're always gonna do what you think is right. Sometimes you're way out ahead of other people. When I started Desert Gardens, nobody believed in it either, but it worked out pretty good, right? So, the property that I have there, I zoned it, I think 23 years ago, commercial. And it was a long time before we ever really decided what we were gonna do with it. When I sold it and I reacquired it with the idea to put a storage units on it. And then we got thinking about it and they started looking at the housing crisis we have upriver is a massive housing crisis. There's no long-term rentals up here at all. And with the new pressure sewer main coming up, it changes a lot of things. And so I've been working with Ash Creek to see what their timetable is. I've done test holes out there for septic systems. And I'm just trying to design a system that's very similar to the one right across the street from me. It's given, I think 22 single residents or the nightly rental residents, along with a gas station, a restaurant. And they were able to make that work with a septic system, including the replacement area. So those are normally the parameters that you were working with. You've got parking issues that are parameters, sewer issues that are parameters. And then with that being said, it's a commercial piece of ground. And so there's a lot of different options on a piece of commercial ground. And what I would like to do is present my idea with the idea that we look at it very wide, broadly, with the idea that there's nothing in the ordinance that prevents us from requesting the zoning, but there's also nothing that says we can. And my idea was that we could work together. This is an opportunity for the planning and zoning to, since you are upgrading and doing everything and things are gonna change, why don't we work cooperatively and have everybody put in something, good feedback to each other rather than just opinions. And so with that being said, I want to show you what I brought and what my concept is. I know that it might take a year before we ever get the language in the ordinance, and it may be that the language never shows up. And that ends up with a duplex out there. It might be. But that won't be my choice, and I would like to present my idea because I think it's a benefit to the community and everybody involved. And it's a perfect transition from commercial to residential. So if you don't mind, should I just show you the layout? It's very simple. You come off the highway, the gas station is here. You turn into the subdivision. I met with the city engineer. And I met with the city engineer today and discussed all the drainage issues, action issues. We've already done the 100-year flood study on this several years ago when we did phase 3 right next to your house. So this comes around, wipes around, and goes underneath the culvert right here. This lot, this property belonged in the first phase. That's why it was zoned years ago. Third phase is from here out. So this lot on the corner of Bob's house, that property line goes right down here. Straight. There's a culvert that comes out right here and meanders a little bit on my property and then it goes straight out.
So where would the entrance?
Right here. Right
Where
here.
is that one?
So we have the turning lanes. This is going in off the highway. This is the gas station. This is us. And so what we have is laid out an idea for long-term, badly needed housing. What we've got, and this is subject to change. It's not over 25 feet. They're not all 2-story. In fact, we try to minimize it, which we're gonna do a southwest layout. We have 42 spots for parking, which we don't need, but what we're gonna do is just like we did here, Tony. We put 2 6-foot diameter storm drains across the road. And that storm drain study was done the same thing. So no more water can come underneath that than it's already come. So we know what our grade is. We're gonna bring this up 1 foot above that box culvert grade. Bring it up, put the culverts through and build a road. We put a gate right there and we have walls all the way around it, so it's 100% self-contained. The unit count we have, we're asking for 23 units, but now hear me out on that. The density that we're trying to get is a plus for everybody. It's self-contained, it's not a hotel, it's a residential complex. And what I really want to do is bring it in as a condominium project. That would be my preference. And there's quite a bit of work that we can do together. I'm just finishing up 168 homes down in Hurricane.
So they're primarily 2-story.
No, there's a couple of them, there's some of them, there's 6.
6, 6, 7.
Well, here's your-
4 single story.
Okay, that's what it is, that's what we got it shown, but that doesn't mean that it can't be drawn. I'm showing the concept that I think would be the maximum value of that property is very aesthetically appealing. The things that will be a driving force on it is sewer. That is a major force on it, but other than that, as long as I've got my sewer taken care of, it's two. But it's, again, it's commercial. My hotel in
On
our,
GIS, it's residential, you know that. On GIS, Washington County, and on our county maps.
and so what we'll do, is we'll go back to the minutes on the commercial property on the 6 acres, right? Right? Right here. Because I personally came in and got this loan 23 years ago on the very same night that I got the other piece loan. What that is a mismark. That is somebody mislabeled it, and I know it because I did it. I did it. I did everything out there, so there's nobody really with more knowledge than I have. It is commercial, but what I want to point out is my hotel in Hurricane has 46 rooms, and it's on 3/4 of an acre. So things work. It's just like Desert Garden started out. I promise you, I had the same pushback every meeting I've ever attended in Virgin. From Desert Gardens to Leahona, but everything I've touched has been a good product. We've been a blessing to people, and I think that that will be the best blessing that you could possibly do. The governor himself has put a mandate on us trying to find the housing. It is desperately needed, and I think it's a wise thing to do because it's a long-term concept. And I don't mind if we lose some of those units. What I want to do is just put the best product out there, and something, losing a unit isn't necessarily gonna make it better. And so the other approach that I wanted to, bring up is we do have the option to consider a conditional use permit for it versus doing language in an ordinance. And I'll go either direction. The language in the ordinance kind of lets people, it gives them something to work with. So when we get up here as a developer, we need a checklist, and that's really what we did to get the Desert Gardens built. I had a checklist, and we went down and we just checked every single box, and that's what I want to do. I want to cooperate. I want to be your friend when we're done. It's going to be beautiful, and I think it's worth considering. I don't think this is anything at all that's would be an eyesore. It'd be beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
It's easier to do the table, isn't it?
Thank you for your time, guys. And any questions, if you have questions, want to talk to me, I'm really open with. Again, I've already been meeting with, the city engineer, John Mills, and it's a cooperative process, and I just want it to be a blessing for everybody moving on. So, thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right. Now we have commissioner comments. Larry, do you have any comments you'd like to make at this time? Lee, do you have any comments you would like to make at this time? Not that I remember. I have no comments. Boy, I just have nothing to do. All right, and I know we had some people come in late, but did any of the people who just recently came in want to state something during open forum where you talk about something not on the agenda? Just want to make sure you have a chance. Okay, all right, there we go. All right, so now I will entertain a motion to close the public meeting and open the public hearing.
I'll move that we close the public meeting and open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, Lee? Aye. Jolene? Aye. All right, okay. I'm going to start something new today, and that is to give you a little synopsis of each of the items on the public hearing. This might alleviate questions that you have, and you won't have to come up, well, you're always welcome to come up, you always love hearing from the public, but let me know if you liked it or if it's helpful or not. So the first item is an ordinance for providing a streamlined process for low impact conditional use permits, adding conditional uses and amending the conditional use approval process. And this ordinance makes a number of changes, and because I want to be accurate, I am going to read this, okay? To our chapter 16, which is where our conditional use procedure is written, including the addition of a low impact conditional use permit. Currently, if an applicant simply wishes a change from one use to another, the rules would require them to go through a public hearing and a DRC approval, which is burdensome for changes that have little or no impact on the community. This ordinance provides for low impact uses to be approved by a single nod from the planning commission. So they would only come before the commission here. Conditional use permits allow the town greater enforcement options over uses that require compliance with specific standards. They also attach to the land and therefore are a permanent record of those standards that will continue through changes in ownership. Permitted uses are more difficult to hold to town standards, and compliance with standards for changes in use may not survive changes in ownership. However, when specific standards for a given use are sufficiently covered in the ordinance, many lower impact uses can safely be listed as permitted. This ordinance, if adopted as is, would make all commercial uses conditional as they once were. This may be controversial, so the following points are important to consider. The low impact conditional use permit adopted by this ordinance makes the process extremely simple for many applications. Any of these conditional uses may be listed as permitted once the town has adopted standards specific to that use. Since the grant of a conditional use is an administrative decision, public input may not be a factor in that decision. The planning commission may not deny an application unless some aspect, such as a specific location, makes compliance with town standards impossible, a very unlikely circumstance. The second ordinance is an ordinance prohibiting commercial or public parking in residential or agricultural zones. This was pretty straightforward. It addresses a concern that was voiced in town council meetings a few months ago. The addition of the shuttle stop in Virgin, the bus stop, created a concern that people might offer parking on the residential or agricultural land, disrupting the character of surrounding neighborhoods. This ordinance would prohibit public and commercial parking lots in residential and agricultural zones. The third item is an ordinance amending the titles of the Virgin Municipal Land Use Code, Title 16, Chapter 16, and of Section 16.28 to allow inclusion of standards for permitted use and change of title. This title change will allow standards for both conditional and permitted uses to be included in the same chapter 16. It will consolidate the location of all standards for all uses in a single place and will also ease the process of changing conditional uses into permitted uses as we continue to work on our standards. The fourth is on putting back into our code our open space chapter. And that's item 4A4. There are some large parcels within the town that currently exist that are zoned open space. Unfortunately, the chapter that described these uses and their standards for that zone were removed a few years ago, perhaps unintentionally. As a result, landowners must do deep research. It's not on our website to simply find out what is permitted on their parcels. This ordinance returns the chapter to Virgin's land use code. And finally, we have a zone change of V-97, which is the current town lot. They own that lot. Okay, the zone change on tonight's agenda was initiated by the mayor to address concerns expressed by the community. It would change the zoning of the town's current property on Highway 9 from rural residential to commercial as part of a land exchange with the property further west in town, which is also on Highway 9, opposite Desert Gardens. It would not increase or decrease the amount of commercial or rural residential lots in town. The town's property would then be further west on Highway 9, and the current owner of the new town lot would have ownership of the old town. Hope that was not much, but clarified, okay? And with that, we will begin our public hearing on item one. Item one is an ordinance providing streamlined process for low impact conditional use permits, adding conditional uses and amending the conditional use approval process. And as a reminder, our job right now is to listen and take copious notes, rewatch the recording, and then ask any clarifying questions if needed. Okay, we discuss it in detail next week at our work meeting, and then we vote on it at our next, May's regular meeting. Okay, and that's the process we use so that we have time to fully consider and make any adjustments based on comments from the public. So is there anyone who would like to comment on that first item? Hearing. Let us move on to item two, which is an ordinance prohibiting commercial or public parking in residential and agricultural zones. Is there anyone who would like to comment? Or against on that item?
I do have a question.
And state your name.
Skip Boismont. How do you handle it then if you want to treat that bus stop as like a parking ride?
As a parking lot?
Parking ride.
Right.
Some people want to drive to it.
My understanding is currently, Mr. Berger is providing some, parking at his hotel for that. And that may be something down the road, but that is neither in where it currently is not in residential or agricultural.
Okay, so where's the bus stop? I guess I'm not clear.
Highway resort. It's in highway resort, RV park, near the new RV park,
Okay,
opposite the hotel.
and so you were saying that a private party is gonna provide parking for that?
I don't know, I don't think that's a long-term solution, but I do believe that's where we're starting now. And this ordinance only, at this time, only applies to, residential and agricultural, so residential, rural residential, and agriculture, both of the residential zones and agriculture.
Okay, so if you have the bus stop, does it encroach on that rural residential?
No,
Okay.
that
So-
was stuff does not.
So you could have parking provided there for the people that wanna drive to the bus, taking Springdale. Okay. That's all.
And my current understanding, and I don't know if this changed over the last few months since the bus system has been staffed, you might know, is it still, are they still using Mr. Berger's hotel parking lot?
Well, currently the bus stop is across the street from the
Hotel.
hotel. And he's allowing, from my understanding, Berber's still allowing people to park there and then get on the bus stop, but
I don't know if that's a long term.
I don't know if that's a long-term thing or not, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's not residential or agricultural.
but I know that's not going to be the only bus stop in town.
No.
Right, so it seems like if you have a bus stop that will be used by a lot of people, some will want to drive there. Does that ordinance preclude having?
Not in commercial and not in highway resort.
like,
And, most of our commercial is on, and highway resort is on highway 9.
Okay, so I guess what I'm getting at, is it reasonable to think that you'll have parking available for a bus stop?
I can't answer that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, if it's too,
I'm not in those,
Yeah.
that back and forth conversation.
Right,
yeah, I think that's the point of this, if, just because of administration, we have these conversations a lot. This is a lot of it preventing having people have parking within the neighborhoods and people
Sure.
walking up into the neighborhoods to get to a bus stop. Kind of thing is more so what this ordinance is, instead of just, or people using their driveway, hey, park here for $20 and then use my driveway, and having people walk up to the bus stops within the neighborhoods is kind of what this ordinance, I think, is more so. We're kind of preventing, so people don't turn their backyards into parking lots, kind of thing, just to make them up.
I did write down your question, so that I won't forget to follow up on that as well.
Yeah, the ordinance makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense, but
But-
then you don't
And
wanna,
I think what Darlene was saying is along the highway is commercial and stuff, so if somebody
we're not
wanted to turn their commercial property into a parking go kind of thing, that would be something that Shiloh would have to, they'd have to go DRC and Shiloh and go through permitting and all of that kind of stuff, so that's a
yeah, I
commercial
guess,
thing.
as long as it's not against an existing ordinance,
Yeah,
then you have the ability to do that.
that would be a commercial, that's what Darlene was saying, it would be commercial or something.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else on parking? All right. So we will move on to item number 3, an ordinance amending the title of the Virgin Municipal Land Use Code. Title 16, Chapter 16, and of Section 16.28 to allow inclusions, standards for permitted uses. So it's adding that language into the current title. So that we can have the standards there, and as for both conditional and permitted, and if we change something from conditional to permitted, it will make it smoother and easier to have that. Did I get that correct?
Yes, but to be clear, that it's just adding one word to the title of chapter 16.
Yeah.
Right now, it's conditions and conditional uses, but now, then after this, it would be standards, conditions, and conditional uses. So all the standards can be together.
Any comment? Number 4. An ordinance amending title 16 of the Virgin Land Use Code to reinstate and renumber chapter 48 open space district. That's the one so that we have standards to address things we have, but in our current code, those standards have been removed. So if the owner has questions, they have to do, come into town hall and go and investigate hard copies. Right? Does anyone have a comment about that? Finally, the zone change, and this is a city yard. And, do you want to pull up the map of that zone change so that the public can see where it's at? Does that make sense to everyone? I didn't get any of that paperwork. I don't, okay, what I printed. Oh. Tyler, can you put us into context of where this is, like, what's around this slum?
Directly across from it, you'll see the rib is basically directly across from it. The rib is the zip kits that were just put in right in front of, Zion White Bison.
White Bison.
So there's the short-term rentals that look like rectangular. I was waiting, there you go. So it's, basically directly across from that. If you drive by it, it looks like a place where dumping has been kind of the norm. There's a lot of debris. So if you're leaving going towards Laverton, it's on the right-hand side, directly across from.
We have our gravel thing and some equipment there, and when we have dumpster days, that's where that is, and that would be just switched with that lot next to the Sugars, I believe. Further west. Any questions or comments on that? Yes, just remember to state your name.
I'm Summer Stout, it's, the property next to the Shivers you guys own as well, or the town owns, and you're just swapping, or you're swapping?
We don't. So there's an owner of that property
By the Shivers.
by the Chivers, who is switching, equal amount of, or very similar amount with the town lot.
It's 1 acre per 1.77 acres. We're giving 1 acre, they're giving 1.77 acres.
For the whole, is that what that whole thing is, that whole amount?
This is 1 acre.
So what was, from my understanding years ago, and I know this could be changed clearly, but that was donated for a fire department. And I know that that has kind of been changed and whatever. What is there a plan for that, or
It would,
So that will be-
that would be in the new lot.
over by the Shivers is where that's being planned? Okay,
That's my understanding.
okay, thank you.
I hope, did that
Yeah.
clarify it?
Yes.
Thank you, Summer, appreciate that. Any other comments on that one? All right.
I have a question.
One more. That one's up.
So that lot, I'm familiar with where it is, and then there's one next to Shivers. And you're just gonna make a switch. So then the town lot won't be where it is now across from those little,
It would be across from Desert Gardens.
okay. Just making sure I was understanding what was. That's it, oh, Carol Bushnell.
Are there any other comments? All right, if there are no other comments, we will go ahead and I'll take a motion to close the public hearing and reopen the public meeting.
I move to close the public hearing and reopen the public meeting.
I second.
All in favor? Me?
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right, that leads us back to our public meeting where we have a motion and vote for items 1 and 2. And just a discussion of the third item, okay? Okay, all right. So, commissioners, do you have any comments or questions about item 1? The zone change B-97 from rural residential to commercial.
Yeah, I would like to, just to say that I think this is a really good change. I think there was some worry about surrounding neighbors to have the ones across from Desert Gardens, go forward as with a commercial designation, which is where it's headed. And, to now make that into town property and put the commercial closer to the center of town, I think is, a really good thing. And I'm glad the mayor came up with the idea, which I guess she woke up with one morning, but anyway.
That's the best ideas.
Anyway, I'm going to vote yes.
All right, Larry, do you have any comments about that one before we?
Yes.
So go ahead.
I do, I'm not a big fan of the land swap. I do agree that that lot should be zoned commercial. And the general plan, overwhelmingly, people have said that they would like to see the commercial properties on the 9. And that lot that we voted on twice as a commission to change it to commercial has never been changed to commercial, and now
And you know what that is, because it was a conditional change if there was a development agreement. There's been no development agreement, and therefore it currently is still rural residential.
so
There
it-
is a development agreement and it's.
I was told that was never signed.
It never is officially
It's
been
not
signed,
yet.
but there was a development agreement in play that was passed. Very good question. Sorry.
I mean, I was talking to people who should know.
Let's go back a minute and look at it.
Yeah.
It was passed. On agreement, but.
it just seems like we're gonna go through a lot of expense to clean up that lot, move all their stuff down to the next lot, and
Well, I'll tell you regardless, that lot has to be cleaned up because it's a fire hazard, so that has to be cleaned.
and there's homes just as close to that piece of property as there is on the other one, and why is this one okay to be commercial now? It's not, it's just it rubs me the wrong way, in that we're taking a piece of a wash in exchange for a very prime piece of commercial real estate that has a lot of value for a piece of land that I don't think has nearly so much value. I would like to make an offer on that lot, it's a commercial lot, that will probably be much more than that you'd ever get for the other lot, so I think we're stepping backwards in values. I think you'd have almost as much money improving that lot to get it ready to build as you would in buying this lot, so.
And my comments would be, I appreciate, the mayor and the town council listening to the community. because there is a huge desire to preserve our neighborhoods. That was really clear in our general plan surveys and in the open house comments. Which we all have access to on SharePoint.
Yes.
This is a, if the current property owners are fine with this, I don't see a negative, and I see it as a balance, I don't see it as taking away residential, because it's a swap, so we're not increasing or decreasing either. You know, as, Mr. Smedley has told us repeatedly, it's over 70% of our commercial land is not even used. So there's not a huge need to expand it. I think if the intent is what I last heard, that the new spot is a much better location for a successful business. And it's accessible from everywhere.
Which is why that lot has a lot of value. I think if we aren't gonna use that lot, we should think about
Well, the point is the town wants the lot. It does eventually need a fire department. And this other lot probably would be a better lot since it's larger for the fire department to be there. And be accessible to not just our community, but shoot down and help as well. So it could be a welcome center. I mean, there's many things it can be. And the town is getting more acreage. So there's that too. So it's all a balance.
I don't think it's a balance. If I was the owner of either one of those lots, and if I was the owner of the lot that's in the wash and somebody offered me a beautiful commercial piece of property, I would jump at it. And as a resident of Bergen, who knows that it's the town's money that's getting spent on this and lost, thinking the trade value or the value of the lots are not the same. I just think it's a bad move. I'm all for that lot being commercial. So I'm conflicted. I want to vote yes on it, but I want to vote no because of the reason we're doing it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because right now we're working on, there's a draft for a downtown zone, which would incorporate the parcel that we're talking about rezoning right now. And it is specifically for, walkable, interactive commerce, and is maybe less a good place for a fire truck, a firehouse. So, and it also allows for smaller lots, so, it might make you feel a little better once you take a look at that draft, that this would be incorporated in that, whereas the other one would be more for what's happening on the west end of town.
So I feel like we're selling a lot without getting bids.
No, we're not selling a lot. I mean, our town attorney has examined this thoroughly.
Because I would love to swap. If I didn't know that was available, but I would love to swap. I've got a commercial piece that would.
Well,
So it's
but
not an
for
equitable
the
trade.
benefit of the entire community, though, I think it's a good.
Maybe the fire station further out of center of town doesn't seem like but
So, well, I guess we'll see what happens. I'll make a motion that we approve zone change V 97 from rural residential to commercial.
All second. Larry?
we taking a vote?
Uh-huh.
No.
Darlene, yes.
Yes.
The motion, it passes. And the only other item up for the vote here is when we discussed at our, March meeting. And that is that adding of that word to the title of chapter 16. And we had a thorough discussion of it, and at that time, everybody was kind of like on board with adding that, just for the sake of clarification. Is there any further discussion on that item?
I'm not sure I'm looking at the right one.
It's pretty short, let me look. I'll show you. It's a long one in time. No. I think I did on here. Here it is. Title.
Got it.
I'm sorry, the page numbers on my PDF didn't come out. That would have been helpful to you. I have no further comments on this. I think the more we can do to consolidate everything on the same use in one chapter, the clearer it is, the easier it is for the property owner to understand the parameters, and it's easier it is, for residents to read and understand the ordinance.
And I'd say, yeah, it's also easier for us as we work to convert some uses from conditional to permitted by adding specific standards. That will just streamline that process I think a lot.
Is there something you'd like to add?
No,
Okay.
yeah, I'm okay.
You're okay with that?
Yeah. That's-
All right,
I just want to make sure I'm doing my work.
yeah,
Correct.
no, I
Because you got-
I wanna make sure everybody has a chance to.
Correct,
Oh,
yes.
all right, so with that short discussion, I will take a motion for, we usually, motion to approve, and it will either pass or fail.
Yes, we recommend approval of the ordinance amending the title of the Virgin Municipal Land Use Code, Title 16, Chapter 16, and Section 16.28 to allow inclusions, the word standards for permitted uses.
I second.
Larry? Oh, yeah, that's fine. Darlene is aye.
Aye.
Yes. All right. And then, our final, item is that was too kind of moment. You know, I think I'm still proud of it. It should have been, I thought it was gonna be, this was the other work. Yeah. Well, it's discussion. Are we allowed to discuss something if it's just discussion?
Yes,
Just not, all right. I want to acknowledge,
just state that on there, that what you're doing.
we're going to be discussing our work ordinance. And last month meeting, we had an option A, which was offered by Mary, and an option B, which was offered by, Lee. And they got together and came up with a version. And, we're gonna have a brief discussion of that. Do either one of you want to give an overview of that for the public?
Sure, so the live, work, addition to a fixed, approved or allowed uses in commercial was in an effort to provide housing for employees. I know there are resort towns that require employee housing if you do commercial development, but I don't think we're quite there yet, but it would be nice if we encouraged it. And if you have a commercial project and you want to incorporate living quarters for your employees or even the business owner, we should encourage that developers consider this, or businesses consider this. And it was a conditioned use before, we were trying to get it off the conditioned rolls and make it just a basically administrative. If you meet these requirements, then you were allowed to do to have this. There was two drafts, and my version was reviewed, by Riker and was changed, and I made the assumption that there was no changes when it said Larry's version. And didn't even read it till the night of the meeting, and thought, oh my God, this is not my version, but, and there's a lot of things in Lee's version that made a lot of sense that I didn't think of them on, so it was great that we had a chance to get together and kind of find some common ground. And I think what she's come up with is great. There's a couple of things that I think I'd like to maybe add or change. Minor, but something we can add and then discuss it at next.
That's what's gonna be my next question, because I'd like to have a full commission, discussion. I
And this
know you may or may not be able to be
Right.
part of that, but make sure that if you two talk in minutes.
Yeah, if we could chat about
Okay,
it.
then I'll talk to
Right,
you directly.
Okay,
Okay, perfect.
and if there's anything specific you want to point it out, you could send that to me, and I will, even if it's a bullet point thing, I'd be
And there's
more than happy to read that aloud during the meeting.
only three items
Three items.
that,
Okay.
and they're minor if you want to talk about them now.
It's only 6:18.
It's only 6:18, so if you want to hash it
Okay,
out.
one of them was, okay, simple, one of them just said live work building, and I'd like to have it say live work property.
What?
Line, okay, that's just, we could take on, so we can do later, if you want, but it's line 49. So it's kind of saying it's in the building. And we kind of clarified that it doesn't necessarily have to be in the building, just on the property, so I just wanted to make sure that that was.
Okay, you're right. I mean, I found two other places where it was requiring attachment and I got rid of those. I missed this one.
Right.
So,
Good job.
And then line 73, says they're prohibited outside of commercial zones, and I think we would probably be smart to add them in highway resort also.
I totally agree with that.
So,
It's not what was originally proposed, but I mean,
yeah, it's,
I don't know if that would require that we already need another hearing.
yes,
So we can fix that before
Yes.
Sunday when the hearing I have.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me. Where is that?
and then a maximum of one, at line 85, a maximum of one permit for one living quarters may be granted for one commercial operation. And my thought is, if you are opening a hotel and you have 30 employees and you have room to build 6 bungalows in the back, that seems like one unit would be too much of a limitation for that many employees, so,
Certainly once sewer's here.
yeah, well, to build a hotel, they're gonna have to have some way to get rid of that sewage anyway. so
Exactly.
another 6 bungalows.
Exactly. I guess that's kind of why I didn't bother to think about that too hard, but maybe you're right, we should.
Yeah, and it works for a lot of the small businesses, and it's kind of what it's designed for, but I want to also encourage large employers to have.
I think that there's a desire amongst at least some council members for us to do like a whole workforce housing ordinance in which we could do a couple of those things. But we could probably make the language more flexible on that in here.
And I think the rest of it is great. Nice work.
And, just FYI, our submission date of the documents for the May public hearing is April 27th. April does not.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. And I'll double check that and let you know if it's otherwise May 13th. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, we're in April. Okay. So that's April 16th. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. Today is April 8th, right?
Yes.
Ah, okay. So if we want it for public hearing in May, I have, and I think Crystal, we went over these together, but I'm just gonna double check again, that it was, April 27th is the date we needed. You just double check. And 10/17/2018.
For May,
That,
you're talking for May's, right?
yeah, May 13th, so 17 days before May 13th.
Yes, the 27th.
Okay, just wanted to make sure and get out accurate information. Well, thank you two for working so
Yeah,
hard
it
on
was
this,
Actually,
and I think,
great.
I mean, even though I know you got frustrated, I think we have a nice ordinance with a lot of
Yes,
great perspective.
yeah, and I
And
learned so
common
much,
ground.
the time I had with Lee, I learned so much about the history
Yeah.
of Virgin
Yeah,
and it was
yeah, I'm
great. I
so
appreciate
glad,
it.
I'm so glad you did that.
Yeah.
Right. All right, well, that's it for me. And, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
And we will be here in 2 meeting.
I will second that.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you for your time, thank you, Summer